They detected the signal before they saw the planet. It appeared on every channel at once, cutting cleanly through encrypted military bands, navigation frequencies, and deep space relay lines as if none of them existed. No distortion. No delay. Just a single transmission repeating in perfect intervals, marked with a translation tag their systems did not recognize. Final warning! The bridge fell quiet, not out of concern, but curiosity. The fleet had crossed 3 galactic arms without encountering a species capable of forcing a signal into their network. That alone was unusual. But not threatening. Not to them. Source? The commander asked. Third planet from the star, the systems officer replied. Primitive classification confirmed. Pre-expansion civilization. Limited orbital activity. A low murmur spread across the command deck. Primitive species didn't issue warnings. They panicked. They broadcast pleas, fragmented defenses, emotional noise. This signal carried none of that. It was controlled. Measured. Deliberate. Play it, the commander ordered. The voice that followed was human, but stripped of emotion. Calm to the point of discomfort. Not cold. Not aggressive. Simply certain. You are approaching a restricted boundary. Do not proceed further. This is your only warning. Silence lingered for a moment after it ended, as if the ship itself was processing what it had heard. Then came the laughter. Confidence, one officer muttered. From a species that hasn't left its own orbit. They don't even have a defensive grid, another added. No fleet signatures. No forward positions. Nothing. The commander leaned back slightly, eyes fixed on the star ahead. He had seen this before, lesser civilizations masking fear with empty statements. It never changed the outcome. Run a full scan, he said. Data streamed across the displays. Atmospheric composition, surface structures, electromagnetic output. Everything aligned with a developing world. Technologically active, yes, but nowhere near the threshold required to challenge an interstellar fleet. No visible weapons platforms, the systems officer confirmed. No energy buildup consistent with planetary defenses. No long-range targeting systems. And yet they issue a warning, the commander said quietly. Likely psychological, another officer responded. An attempt to delay or confuse. Or desperation, someone added. The transmission repeated. You are approaching a restricted boundary. Do not proceed further. This is your only warning. It hadn't changed. Not a single variation in tone, pacing, or wording. No escalation. No urgency. Just the same statement, delivered with absolute control. That was the only detail that lingered longer than expected. The commander tapped the console once, bringing up the fleet formation. Thousands of vessels stretched behind them, each one capable of ending civilizations in minutes. This world, this Earth, posed no measurable threat. Advance, he said. Engines shifted, the fleet moving deeper into the system. The signal did not intensify. It did not multiply. It did not fragment into panic or negotiation. It simply continued, steady and unchanged, as the distance closed. Long-range scans updated again. Still no response, the systems officer reported. No defensive mobilization. No evacuation patterns. Surface activity remains stable. Stable? The commander repeated. Yes, Commander. No signs of mass distress. Communications are structured. Organized. Almost as if. He hesitated. As if what? As if they expected this. A brief silence followed, thinner this time. The commander dismissed it with a small motion. Irrelevant. Maintain course. The fleet crossed the outer boundary of the system's defensive perimeter, or what should have been one. There were no mines. No patrols. No interceptors rising to meet them. Only the signal. You are approaching a restricted boundary. Do not proceed further. This is your only warning. Primitive arrogance, one officer said. They don't understand scale. Or consequence, another added. The commander didn't respond immediately. His gaze remained fixed on the planet, now clearer on the forward display. Blue-green cloud covered. Alive. Unprotected. And quiet. Too quiet. Commander, the systems officer said again, more slowly this time. We are about to cross the designated boundary referenced in the transmission. Confirmed, the commander replied. Shall we acknowledge the warning? A faint smile formed, thin and dismissive. No. The fleet moved forward. For the first time since the signal began, it stopped. No fade. No distortion. No final message. Just silence. And then they crossed the line. The silence that followed should have been insignificant. Instead, it felt deliberate. Without the constant repetition of the warning, the system seemed unnaturally empty. No news signals replaced it. No defensive chatter emerged. No surge of chaotic transmissions that usually marked the final moments before invasion. Earth remained steady, its communication networks active yet controlled, as if nothing had changed. Signal has ceased, the systems officer confirmed. Expected, another replied. They've said their piece. But the absence lingered longer than it should have. The fleet continued inward, tightening formation as they approached optimal engagement range. Targeting systems mapped major population centers, industrial zones, and orbital structures with precise efficiency. Every variable aligned with a standard planetary subjugation. Yet something refused to align. Commander, the systems officer said, hesitating this time. We are experiencing minor discrepancies in long-range scans. Define. Temporal lag in data return. Fractions of a second. Inconsistent. Sensor error? Negative. Cross-referenced across multiple systems. The commander said nothing, watching the data scroll across his display. The delay was insignificant in combat terms, but its presence was irregular. Their instruments were calibrated to operate across vast distances without drift. Even minor inconsistencies were rare. Correct it, he said. We're attempting recalibration. Another officer leaned forward. Could be interference from the star. No, the systems officer replied. This is localized. Localized? To the planet. The fleet pressed on. No defenses rose to meet them. No missiles launched. No energy spikes formed in orbit. Even the planet's electromagnetic profile remained stable, as though its inhabitants were continuing their routines under the shadow of an approaching armada. Still no mobilization? The commander asked. None, came the answer. Surface activity patterns remain structured. Transportation networks active. Communications intact. No evidence of panic. That's not possible, one officer muttered. They've detected us. They acknowledged us, another added. They issued a warning. Then why aren't they reacting? No one answered that. A new alert flickered across the console. Targeting systems are experiencing intermittent lock failures, the weapons officer reported. Solutions are degrading momentarily before stabilizing again. Explain. We acquire a target, then lose it for a fraction of a second. Then it returns. No external interference detected. The commander's gaze sharpened. Is the planet deploying countermeasures? No detectable emissions, the officer said. No energy signatures consistent with jamming. Another pause. Then a second anomaly appeared. Navigation drift detected, the helm officer said. Minimal deviation, but uncommanded. Compensate. I am. It corrects, then reappears. The commander stood slowly, stepping closer to the central display. The planet now filled a larger portion of the viewport, its cloud systems shifting in slow, natural patterns. There was nothing aggressive about it. Nothing defensive. And yet, their systems were beginning to disagree with reality. Run a full diagnostic across all vessels, he ordered. Already in progress, the systems officer replied. Reports incoming. Data streamed in from across the fleet. Minor inconsistencies. Nothing catastrophic. But all of them shared the same pattern: brief disruptions, then stability. As if something was testing the edges of their systems without fully engaging. "Commander," another voice cut in. "We're receiving fragmented historical data from our archives." He turned. "Clarify. Records of this species' technological development are incomplete. Gaps in progression. Entire phases missing." "That's not possible," the commander said. "We track all emerging civilizations." "We did," the officer replied carefully. "Until a certain point. After that, data becomes unreliable. Observations cease. Then resume much later with discrepancies." "Discrepancies how?" "They appear less advanced than projections suggested." A quiet realization began to form, not fully understood, but impossible to ignore. "They fell behind?" one officer suggested. "Or they chose to appear that way," another said. The commander's expression hardened. "Speculation is irrelevant. Focus on present conditions." "Yes, Commander." Another alert. "Commander, the anomalies are increasing in frequency. Magnitude? Still minimal. But spreading across multiple systems simultaneously." The fleet continued forward, now approaching the boundary referenced in the warning, the same invisible line they had already chosen to ignore. "Distance to boundary?" the commander asked. "Less than 1 standard unit." No defenses. No response. No escalation. Only the growing sense that something was wrong. "Commander," the systems officer said, voice tighter now. "We are detecting fluctuations." "Define." "Space-time readings are unstable. Slight distortions. Not enough to impact navigation, but measurable." "Source?" A pause. "Unknown." The commander looked at the planet again. Still calm. Still silent. "Maintain course," he said. The fleet advanced. And somewhere, unseen and unannounced, something began to activate. The first failure was dismissed as a glitch. A single vessel on the outer formation stopped responding for less than a second. Its telemetry froze, then resumed as if nothing had happened. Systems returned clean. No damage reported. No external contact detected. "Transient error," the systems officer said. The commander allowed it. Minor faults occurred in large formations. They corrected themselves. Then it happened again. 2 ships this time. Different positions. Identical pattern. A brief absence in data, followed by perfect restoration. No alarms triggered, yet every console registered the interruption. "Run diagnostics," the commander ordered. "Already running." "No faults found." Another pause. Then the third event. 5 ships flickered from the network simultaneously. Not visually, physically they remained in formation, but their presence vanished from every system that tracked them. Sensors, targeting grids, command links. For a fraction of a second, they simply did not exist. When they returned, their crews reported nothing unusual. That was when the bridge stopped treating it as coincidence. "Commander, we are losing synchronization across fleet systems," the communications officer said. "Timestamps are desynchronizing by microintervals." "Impossible," someone whispered. "Correct it." "We are attempting to, but the discrepancies are not consistent." The commander stepped forward again, his attention narrowing. "Explain clearly." "Our systems rely on unified temporal reference. That reference is shifting. Slightly. Randomly. External interference? No detectable source." Another ship vanished. This time, it didn't come back immediately. "Report," the commander said, voice tightening. "No signal," the systems officer replied. "No debris. No energy release." "How long?" 2 seconds, 3. The ship reappeared. Its status returned all at once. Hull intact. Power stable. Crew alive. But something had changed. "Commander," the communications officer said, voice unsteady. We're receiving delayed reports from that vessel. Delayed how? They're describing events that haven't happened yet. Silence hit harder than any alarm. Clarify. Their internal logs indicate system failures, structural collapse, destruction. But the ship is intact, the commander said. Yes. Another officer leaned in. Temporal echo? No known phenomenon matches this pattern, the systems officer replied. A sharp tone cut through the bridge. Multiple vessels offline, someone shouted. Dozens of ships blinked out of the network at once. Entire sections of the formation vanished from tactical displays, leaving gaps where none should exist. Reacquire them! We're trying! Seconds stretched. One by one, some of the ships returned. Others did not. Commander, we've lost contact with 14 vessels. Destroyed? No confirmation. No debris fields. No energy signatures. The commander's jaw tightened. This is an attack. But from where? The weapons officer demanded. We have no targets. Something is interfering with our systems at a fundamental level, the systems officer said. Not jamming. Not hacking. It's rewriting. Rewriting what? Reality parameters. No one spoke after that. Another surge hit. This time, the effect was immediate and violent. A ship near the center of the formation twisted, not physically, but perceptually. Its outline warped, stretching and compressing in ways that defied structure. Sensors screamed conflicting data. Mass readings spiked, then dropped to zero. Then the ship collapsed. Not exploded. Not shattered. Collapsed inward, as if space itself had folded around it. And then it was gone. No debris. No radiation. No trace. Confirmed loss, the systems officer said, barely audible. The bridge erupted into overlapping voices. That's impossible. What weapon does that? There's no energy signature. Silence! The commander snapped. The noise died instantly. His eyes locked onto the display, tracking the empty space where the ship had been. Identify the attack vector, he said. We can't, the weapons officer replied. There is no vector. No origin point. Another ship vanished. Then another. Some disappeared cleanly. Others distorted first, their forms bending under forces that could not be measured, before being erased completely. Fleet cohesion is breaking down, the communications officer said. We're losing command links across multiple sectors. Re-establish them. We're trying, but signals are arriving before they're sent. Or after they should have been received. Commander, the systems officer said, voice strained. We are not being attacked through conventional means. Then what are we facing? A pause. Then, quietly. Control. The commander felt it then, not through data, but instinct. They had crossed the boundary. And whatever governed this region was no longer ignoring them. Full retreat, he ordered. The helm officer's hands moved instantly. Warp drives charging. A beat. Then another. Commander. What is it? They're not responding. Override. I am. There's no reaction. Another ship disappeared. Then 5 more. The formation was no longer stable. It was unraveling. We are losing vessels at an accelerating rate, the systems officer said. How many? Too many. The commander stared at the planet again. Still calm. Still silent. As if nothing was happening at all. And that was when he understood. They had not entered a battlefield. They had entered a domain. Panic did not spread all at once. It unfolded in layers, each one stripping away another illusion of control. At first, commands still moved through the fleet, though delayed and fractured. Officers repeated orders that arrived too late to matter, or too early to make sense. Formations shifted unevenly as navigation systems disagreed with themselves, correcting positions that had never been wrong. Then the losses accelerated. Ships no longer flickered in and out. They vanished cleanly, without warning, leaving precise absences in the formation as if they had been removed from existence rather than destroyed. No explosions marked their end. No radiation followed. Space closed over them instantly, smooth and undisturbed. "Report losses," the commander demanded. "Unable to maintain accurate count," the systems officer replied. "Records are desynchronizing. Some vessels are listed as destroyed before their final transmissions. Others are still transmitting after being marked as gone." Another gap opened on the display. Then another. The fleet's structure, once flawless, now looked fragmented, incomplete. "Stabilize command links. We can't hold them," the communications officer said. "Signals are degrading. Some are looping. Others are arriving from incorrect temporal positions." "Define incorrect." "We're receiving distress calls before the events that cause them. And in some cases, after the ships have already ceased to exist." A low tremor ran through the deck, not physical, but perceptual. Displays shimmered, data shifting for a fraction of a second before locking back into place. "Space-time distortion increasing," the systems officer said. "Localized but expanding." "How fast?" "Faster than we can measure." Another ship collapsed. This one didn't vanish instantly. Its structure elongated, stretching across a distance it could not physically occupy. Internal readings spiked beyond measurable limits. Then, without transition, it folded into a single point and disappeared. No debris followed. "Commander," the weapons officer said, voice tight. "We still have no target. No origin. Nothing to fire at." The commander's gaze remained fixed forward. "There must be a control system. A source. If there is, it's not emitting anything we can detect. Then we are not looking correctly." Another wave passed through the fleet. Entire clusters of ships froze in place. Not drifting, not maneuvering, frozen. Their engines remained active, but produced no movement. External forces registered zero. Internal systems reported full function. They were simply held. "Commander, those vessels are unresponsive," the helm officer said. "No command input is reaching them." "Are they damaged?" "No. They're locked." Seconds later, they vanished together. A clean removal. No distortion this time. Just absence. The commander exhaled slowly. "This is not random." "No," the systems officer agreed. "It's selective." "Based on what?" A brief pause. "Unknown criteria." The fleet attempted to scatter. Individual ships broke formation, trying to create distance, to escape whatever invisible mechanism was consuming them. It made no difference. One ship accelerated to maximum thrust. It disappeared mid-maneuver. Another attempted an emergency jump. Its drive activated. Then the ship vanished before the jump completed. "Warp systems are being suppressed," the helm officer said. "We cannot generate a stable field." "Then create an unstable one," the commander snapped. "Anything to break free." "We can't," the officer replied. "The equations won't resolve. It's like the underlying constants are shifting." Another silence followed, heavier than the last. Then the transmission returned. Not louder. Not distorted. Exactly as before. "You were warned." No anger. No triumph. Just a statement. The bridge froze. "That's them," someone whispered. "That's the same signal." The commander stepped closer to the console, eyes narrowing. "Trace it." "We can't. It's everywhere. Every channel. Every frequency. It's not transmitting through space, it's embedded." Another ship vanished. Then 10 more. The pace increased. What had taken minutes was now happening in seconds. "Commander," the systems officer said, voice barely controlled. "We are losing the fleet." "How long?" "At the current rate, less than 10 seconds." The number hung in the air, impossible and undeniable. "This isn't a battle," the commander said quietly. No one responded. Because there was nothing to argue. A battle required opposition. This required nothing. Another wave passed. Hundreds of ships disappeared simultaneously, their signals cutting out in perfect synchronization. The display struggled to keep up, markers blinking out faster than they could be removed. "Remaining vessels?" the commander asked. "Declining too rapidly to track," the transmission repeated. "You were warned." The commander closed his eyes for a fraction of a second. Not in fear. In recognition. They had been given a choice. And they had chosen incorrectly. The final wave came without warning. No distortions. No anomalies. Just silence spreading outward. Ships vanished in expanding layers, the outer edges collapsing inward toward the center of the formation. Each disappearance left nothing behind, not even residual energy. Within moments, only a handful of vessels remained. Then fewer. Then one. The commander stood alone on the bridge, surrounded by empty space where a fleet had existed seconds before. The displays cleared. No targets. No allies. No enemy. Only the planet ahead, unchanged. The transmission spoke one last time. "This boundary is not to be crossed." And then it ended. So did everything else. Nothing remained where the fleet had stood. No debris fields drifted through space. No residual heat signatures marked the passage of weapons. Even the gravitational balance of the region held steady, as if thousands of massive warships had never occupied it at all. The system returned to stillness with unsettling precision, every trace of intrusion removed without error. On Earth, nothing changed. Cities continued their rhythms. Signals moved across networks in ordered patterns. Satellites held their orbits without deviation. There were no celebrations, no global broadcasts declaring victory, no acknowledgement that anything had occurred. The planet behaved exactly as it had before the fleet arrived, calm, controlled, uninterrupted. Because for humanity, this was not an event. It was a protocol. Long before the first alien vessel crossed into the system, the outcome had already been decided. Not through prediction, but through preparation built over centuries of quiet advancement. Humanity had never followed the expected trajectory of expansion. While other civilizations spread outward, marking territory and projecting power, humans turned inward first. They studied conflict not as a series of battles, but as a system of patterns: cause, response, escalation, consequence. They learned that survival did not come from strength alone, but from control. Every war they fought refined that understanding. Every near extinction forced adaptation. They did not become the largest force in the galaxy, nor the most visible. Instead, they became the most precise, the most efficient, the least predictable, and eventually, the most absolute. Their technology did not rely on overwhelming firepower or visible defenses. It operated at a deeper layer, where conventional physics became flexible, where time could be measured, adjusted, or denied entirely. They did not build weapons that destroyed matter. They built systems that determined whether matter could exist within a defined space at all. Earth was not defended by fleets. It was defined by boundaries. The warning had never been a threat. It had been a statement of those boundaries, offered once, clearly, without emotion. A final opportunity for any approaching force to choose distance over erasure. The fleet had not understood that. Few ever did. Across distant regions of space, long-range observers recorded what little they could. Instruments designed to track large-scale engagements detected nothing recognizable as combat. No energy spikes. No weapon signatures. Only the sudden absence of a massive fleet where one had existed moments before. Data analysts searched for explanations, but the patterns did not match any known form of warfare. Reports spread carefully at first, shared between civilizations that had once considered Earth insignificant. The conclusions they reached were incomplete, but consistent in one regard. Humanity had capabilities that could not be measured through conventional observation. That realization changed behavior faster than any show of force could have. Exploration routes adjusted to avoid the system entirely. Expansion models were rewritten to account for a region that could not be contested. Even the most aggressive species revised their strategies, not out of fear in the traditional sense, but out of recognition. There was no advantage in confronting something that did not engage in conflict as others understood it. Earth did not expand to enforce this understanding. It did not need to. The boundary held on its own. Within that boundary, humanity continued as it always had, building, refining, evolving. They did not broadcast their capabilities or seek acknowledgement. Power, to them, was not something displayed. It was something maintained with precision and restraint. They understood the difference between dominance and stability. The fleet that had vanished became a reference point, not a warning repeated, but a lesson observed. Those who studied it closely recognized the pattern: a single communication, a clear limit, and a consequence applied without hesitation when that limit was ignored. No escalation. No negotiation. No second chances. Only certainty. And that certainty reshaped the silence around Earth into something far more significant than emptiness. It became space that was respected, not because it was defended in a visible way, but because it did not need to be. Humanity had reached a point where conflict was no longer fought. It was prevented. Not through diplomacy alone, nor through fear, but through the understanding that some lines, once crossed, did not lead to war. They led to absence. And across the galaxy, that understanding settled into place, quiet and unchallenged. No fleets gathered at the edge of the system again. No signals tested the boundary. No one ignored the warning a second time,